Welcome to our RiskyProject project risk analysis software video correlating risk assignments. We've been having a few requests about risk correlation, and so I thought I'd put a quick one together. So let's take a quick look. I've put together an example file, and we can see two risks. I have two activities that I've assigned the risk to. Now, one of the things we're going to be discussing, there's two types of risk correlation that we can talk about. One is where we correlate the risk assignment for the same risk between different activities, or we can correlate different risks on the same activity. So if we look at a single risk, this one right here, risk one, it's occurring on it's being assigned to two different activities. Now these risks can be correlated, that is, they will during a single iteration of the project, it will only occur once. So if it occurs once, the correlation can be uncorrelated, which means it could occur it could occur or not occur on each one of these activities. So the probability can be lower or higher actually than the actual input probability. And where that's set up is when we're looking at correlating the same risk between different tasks. That's set up here, and we have a default behavior. That default behavior is set up right here. So by default, we have that set up. Risk assignments to different tasks are correlated. So the risk assignment for the same risk, but to different tasks, is correlated. And there's a little help. So if you want to take a look and read a little bit more about that. Now, where is that set up? Well, if we go into the task, and we can see what's been assigned to this task. We want to see what the correlations are. We double click on that risk ID and go to the correlations. And we can see that this risk assignment to this task has not been correlated with the risk assignment to any other task. And we can see the ones that are available. I'll say, okay, on risk number one, risk one, I can also assign it, I can correlate it with that risk assignment in task 2. So if we go OK, and if we look at task 2 and do the same thing, there's risk 1, go to correlations, and it should be, and we can see that correlation. So that risk is now correlated. Now what does that do? And if we go to risk, I just want to make sure that this is not correlated. There we go. Okay. If we go to and we run the calculation, we go to the risk, we can see now that the probability is up 75%. And now we look at the risk assignment, it's 75%. So it's very, very similar, very, very close. If we go back to that same activity, go back to the risks, go back to risk 1 on correlations, and delete that correlation. Okay, and we can check it on here to make sure that it hasn't been, the correlation is gone. It should be. There we go. And what happens then? And we run a quick simulation, and we can see now that the probability is quite a bit higher. It's almost 100%. So that risk, because we've uncorrelated, it can occur more than once during an iteration. So that can have some impact on the risk. Now, one of the other things we're taking a look at, I'm going to go back and correlate because I believe that's a natural behavior, and when people think about a risk occurring, that it's a single risk and it happens once and it can impact across various activities. But I'm also going to, what I would like to do is I've got this risk and I want to correlate it risk 1, task 1. So what I've done now is I've correlated these two risks. So if this risk occurs, this risk should occur as well. There'll be a higher chance that it will occur. We run that calculation and we can see actually what's happened, because it's now more likely to occur if risk 1 occurs. We've gone from I think it was around 16% risk score, so the probability stays the same. It's 50%. But the impact is hitting, and we get a higher risk score. So because we've correlated that risk, we're starting to get a higher risk score because the two risks are happening at the same time. And it fits in somewhat with that event chain methodology that you might see mentioned in our website. So again, just to go over, there's two types of correlation. One is the correlation risk assignments of the same risk between different activities, as we have in risk 1. We can see it's assigned to two different activities, and in this case it's uncorrelated. Okay, so it's over that. And if we want to take a look, we've got it assigned to two different activities. So we talk about correlation of the two risk assignments, or we talk about correlation between two risk activities. And all of that occurs, if we want to look, it occurs, we correlate that in the risk assignment in the task, in the risk tab, task information risk tab, and we can start to see where that correlation is. Again, now if I wanted to, I could recorrelate that, and that would bring the impact of that risk. The probability is going to, and actually will drive up the impact. Interestingly, because it's correlated with risk 1, it's also correlated, risk 2 is correlated with risk 1 on the risk assignment. It's also having some impact on the overall score. So default behavior, risk, the same risk is, it's risk assignments to different tasks is going to be correlated, because I believe that's the natural behavior, but we can change that. And also if we want to, we can correlate different risks in different activities. So if we have risk 1 and risk 2 on one activity, we can correlate that. Just noting that it does have different impacts on our scores, and it can be part of the modeling if we believe that. Now, one of the things that we do have as an underlying framework is that we correlate it's binary, it's either 0 or 1, it's either no correlation or full correlation. And the reason for that is twofold. One is because for simplicity, that it would require us to add additional inputs, frames or fields in the interface, and could give and being able to allow people to give different correlations between 0 and 1, or they could go negative correlations. But also what the research has shown, at least our research has shown, is that if correlation is not high, like around 1, then the impact, there is really no impact. It doesn't really affect the overall analysis of the project. So for a simplifying technique and to make the software easier to use, we just use a binary 0 or 1 for our correlations, and we don't provide a field that allows you to modify that, like let's say a 0.5 correlation. So we don't have that in our risk assignment correlations. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do have any questions, please feel free to send us an email at sales@intavor.com or support We'd like to hear from you and get any feedback we can on this video.